Welcome to Pappy Hour, episode 3. I'm here with my great daughter Jessica and Pappy, and we've got a great hour ahead of us. We're going to talk today about an epic trip that I took after my 4 years. I'm not going to say it was after my graduation from college.
Didn't quite get there.
Didn't quite get there unit-wise, but it was the time I was leaving Chico State at the time and preparing to start my career as a uniform salesman.
Yeah, so you had to go to Europe and get some travel out of your system.
Yes, I had not traveled to the European continent since I was in the 7th grade. I went on a school trip in 7th grade, and we went for 1 week to Paris and took the train from Paris to Madrid, Spain. So 2 of the 5 days were like spent on a train. A couple days of Paris, a couple days of Madrid, and we went back home. So it was a very quick trip with not a lot of memories. I probably was sleep deprived because we were allowed to stay up till however late we wanted to stay up. So
this is your first time to Europe, really digging in.
So this was something that I really wanted to go back and see Europe. I had a lot of fellow fraternity brothers that had traveled the continent, had great stories and great times, and I knew once I started working that I wasn't going to get another 40-day break. This was a 40-day trip.
That's crazy. Well, before we start on the story, just want to say to any of our listeners out there, if you're listening on Spotify, it really helps us out if you subscribe to our podcast and if you leave us a rating. So hopefully we earn your 5 stars. And if you can drop us a 5-star rating, subscribe to the podcast, like our content, share our content, that would really, really help us out. And we would really appreciate it.
Can fans do a rating for me and then do a separate rating for you?
I hope not.
So could I get a 0 and you get a 5?
You would get a 5.
Would that cost average us out to a 2.5?
I don't know, but we would be grateful for any ratings, any engagement, any sharing. Share it with your friends, family. And so let's get into it.
All right.
What year are we talking here?
Okay, we're talking the end of May 1992.
And how long did you take to plan this trip?
Oh, a good part of the semester. In fact, if I would have gone to classes and studied as hard as I planned this trip, I would have had a 4.0.
You maybe would have graduated?
Perhaps I would have graduated. But this trip took precedence, and I was really excited. I had planned it with a great friend and fraternity brother, Joe, and myself, my cousin, Eric, and Joe set out on this trip, and we'll take it from there.
Yeah. Any other people were involved, or it was just you 3 from the start?
No, just the 3 of us. And my cousin Eric was kind of hitching the ride along. It was mostly the planning from Joe and I, and staying up late nights and chatting.
Joe. Shout out Joe. We have the same exact birthday, and the day I was born, he came to the hospital and hung out with us.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, Joe and you have the same birthday.
Yep, August 28th.
August 28th.
Solid guy.
Solid, great guy.
Yeah.
We'll be a guest later on. Has lots of stories.
Oh yeah.
Joe currently runs a four-wheel parts and service business in Livermore, California. So shout out to the 4x4 shop in Livermore. It does a great job and has a ton of stories of being on the road. He has kept traveling his whole life. So I want to say kind of this trip started both of our lives out as avid travelers. And
yeah. So you left from SFO?
So we flew from SFO. Now, Joe wasn't able to make the Ireland trip. So Eric and I left from SFO and we flew to Shannon Airport, where we met our mothers. My mother, Kathy, and his mother, Karen, who are sisters. So they picked us up from the airport. We were really tired because I did not know at the time I boarded the aircraft, but international flights had free drinks. So 2 young men out of college and a 9-hour flight with free drinks, you probably know how it ended up. Mm-hmm. Yeah. On the flight coming home from the trip 40 days later, we'll tell that story because that was another adventurous flight, but we'll end the podcast today.
So
with
you
that
started
story.
the trip off with a bang.
Started off with a bang. We were really tired. We got picked up. Immediately, our mothers were all excited. We were all together in Ireland, and I think the first stop we went to the Cliffs of Moher, which is on the west coast of Ireland, and it's these cliffs that just drop off 500, 700, 1,000 feet
Majestic,
into the water.
incredible. Makes you just kind of want to like leap off of them. They're so just
Yeah,
not in a bad way, but like a wingsuit type of vibe. Like they're just so incredible and giant.
Cliffs of Moher. And if anybody's been to the Cliffs of Moher recently, there's a visitor center. You have to check in. It's very managed there. In 1992, you went to a dirt parking lot and walked out to the Cliffs of Moher. There was no fees to get in, no entrance gates. You just walked out to the cliffs.
Yeah,
it's pretty cool. Ireland has changed a lot since 1992, and so it was really nice to see the old Ireland before it really became the Celtic Tiger, and it is one of the number one tourist destinations in Europe now is Ireland.
Yeah.
So we had a great time with our mothers. We traveled around. We went to Bunratty Castle. We traveled down to the Ring of Kerry. We drove the Ring of Kerry, which was happy we stayed on the roads. Got used to driving in Ireland. And
left side of the road.
Yeah,
small roads,
little
small
tiny
lanes,
roads, 1-lane roads,
hedges right up to the car to the side.
Yeah, 1-lane roads with 2 cars.
Yeah,
that's what I say. So we had a great trip, and the mothers. We made our way up to Dublin. The mothers took off. We took them to the airport, and they went off. And cousin Eric and I stayed in Dublin for a couple nights and had some good times there.
Some pints.
So I had some pints. But then we made our way, which I wanted to touch on this, we made our way to Belfast.
I've never been to Belfast. I've been to Ireland 6 times.
And you've never been to Belfast?
Never been to Belfast.
So Belfast in 1992 was still struggling with basically a civil war.
Yeah.
The IRA was fighting with the Ulsters, and it wasn't a real happy place. So the story that I'd like to tell, we wanted to see it. We wanted to experience Belfast.
Were you worried for your safety?
I wasn't. And I think that wasn't. That was out of ignorance and not doing our research. We probably should have been afraid of our safety, but we just went ahead and we went anyway. Mm-hmm. But the one story that really sticks in is when we were crossing the border. My cousin Eric thought that it would be appropriate to maybe snap a couple pictures of the checkpoint. Well, the checkpoint was 2 pillboxes, one on the left side and one on the right side of the road, and the road dipped down a few feet, kind of like what they would call in the military a kill box. So we were going through this checkpoint. All of the soldiers were British soldiers, all in battle gear, full battle gear, rifles slung, grenades hanging off. These guys, helmets on. These guys were ready for battle. So Eric didn't realize that his flash was going to go off on the foggy morning. So 2 young Irish-looking boys driving a rental car, entering this checkpoint with flashes going off. And a flash can resemble a muzzle flash of a gun. So they were not happy. And they got in front of our car, stopped the car, and I was driving. Eric was in the left side, the passenger seat. And I was looking at the soldier straight ahead of me, and another soldier came up on the window and set his rifle on the car window. Not pointing at me, but pointing inside the car and setting the barrel of his rifle.
Just so you know.
And just so you know, don't move.
Yeah.
and I didn't move, and I definitely had my heart stopped,
That'll get your heart racing.
and I thought to myself, the only thing we can do now is just start talking, so they know we're not Irish, and that we're a couple of dumb American boys.
Yep.
So
Really
I said in a California voice, "Hey, how you doing, buddy? We're from California." And immediately these guys slung their weapons, started chatting with us, told us how they'd been to Camp Pendleton training with the Marines, and we were now their best friends. So we went from getting our car shot up or pulled out of the car and put into a English jail to we were their best friends, and I think they talked to us for like 10 minutes there.
Well, you did what you do best.
I talked.
You de-escalated.
I de-escalated.
You're
and I
really
talked.
good at de-escalating situations.
Yeah. So they were real happy, and in fact, by the time we started going, it was a one lane, and by the time we started again 10 minutes later, there was like 50 cars behind us because these guys could care less on who was waiting.
Yeah.
So it was a good story. And when we were on our way to Belfast, we were entering Northern Ireland. When we got to Belfast, there were British soldiers riding in like half-track vehicles with machine guns at the ready.
Yeah, I haven't done
it was
probably
a crazy
as
place
much
there.
research as I should on that time and that period for someone who has been to Ireland so many times, loves Ireland. I really need to read up more on the history of the IRA and the struggle with Ireland. I should be more informed, I feel.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people don't know that Ireland got its independence from England during World War I, 1916, 1917. And then part of Ireland didn't like the agreement. Half of Ireland didn't like the agreement, and the other half liked the agreement. So in 1921 and 1922, they fought a civil war with each other, not fighting the English, but they fought each other. And so they really didn't have peace until 1923, where they had a treaty, but there was always the IRA, and they weren't happy. They wanted England out of Northern Ireland.
The Irish Republican Army?
Yeah, the Irish Republican Army, yes. And they wanted Ireland to be an island nation without the
influence of England.
8 counties in the north. So that struggle went on from 1923 all the way up to about the mid-90s. So when we were there in 92, it was still bombings going on, and there was still trouble. So it's great to see that Belfast now is a lively, vibrant city. It's doing real well, and most of those problems are all behind Ireland, and it can move on.
Yeah.
So from Ireland, we took a short plane ride over to London Heathrow Airport, and that's when we met up with our third wheel, Amigo Joe, and from then on out, we were the three of us together. London was nothing special. We just kind of walked around, and London for I think we were there 3 days, or 2 days. You could see. We saw the changing of the guard, and
it's
we walked.
Cool. It's cool to go to. Don't tell me. Where's the Queen live?
Buckingham Palace.
Buckingham.
And it's got a great
London.
The Tower of London. That was cool. We went across Tower Bridge.
Yep.
And we had 1 foot. The bridge actually is a drawbridge, so it comes up in the middle, and we all sat with 1 foot on the left side of the bridge and 1 foot on the right side of the bridge, and it's like you were dancing, and that was cool.
Did you do the London Eye?
The London Eye had not been built yet. It wasn't built till after that. We did do the Tower of London, which was
where Anne Boleyn got chopped.
Lots of heads were lost in this place.
Yeah.
And it is one of the most fascinating military museums of hardware. They've got just swords and weapons, and it just everything from fighting battles probably from the 9th century on. So.
I remember when I went there with Meemaw, they had a whole medieval torture section of the museum.
Yeah.
That was gnarly.
Yeah.
That was so gnarly.
That was some hardcore stuff.
Yeah.
So we John around.
Did you go to Abbey Road?
I don't know if we made it to Abbey Road.
I made it to Abbey Road and made Mima stand in the middle of the road and take pictures
Take
of
a
me
picture of
walking
you?
across.
You felt like a beetle?
She was getting honked at.
Yeah. I'm a beetle for a minute.
It was awesome.
I don't think you were the only one to ever do that.
No.
We walked a lot, and then the one thing that's a distraction in London is about every block, or maybe every 4 or 5 storefronts. No, it is a pub.
Yep.
So we just would go in for a pub, and our line was, and it was a line that came from us in college. Let's just stop by for one beer. Well, that one beer
Just
turned into
one
a
beer.
couple of pints and
So
stories.
were you staying in hostels?
In London, we did. We stayed at a hostel. Yeah. We planned the trip that we were going to stay in hostels because of the price, but hostels were brutal. And in a little bit in the show, we'll hear some good hostel stories.
So the hostel in London wasn't so bad?
Wasn't so bad. And I believe we were there 2 nights. So
How
we were
much
in
did
and
it
out.
cost?
I think it was like $15 a night.
$15?
15 American dollars for a night.
Yeah, it's not bad.
Yeah. And we had planned the trip to have a budget that we were trying to stay at $20 a night per guy. So we wouldn't spend over $60
Just for
for a room,
accommodations.
just for accommodations. So $20. Pretty cheap.
Pretty cheap.
Pretty cheap travel. So we were done with London. We wanted to get to mainland Europe, to the continent, as they say, and start our Eurail pass. We had bought a Eurail pass, and we were going to start it when we got to the continent. So we decided to take a bus to Dover, to the coast of England, and we took a ferry from Dover to Ostend, Belgium. And that was great. We were on board, having beers outside. We met a Portuguese fisherman that told us the story. I'm sorry, he was not a Portuguese fisherman. He was a Belgian fisherman. And he told us the story. We noticed that he had 2 gold loops, 2 gold earrings, one on each ear. And the fad in America at the time in the 90s was for men to have 1 ear pierced, but not both. So we asked this gentleman, what's the story behind 2 gold? And they weren't like small little pendant earrings. They were full gold pirate loops. So he kind of looked like a pirate.
You were immediately intrigued.
I was intrigued. I needed to hear the story of this. So he told us, as a fisherman in the open North Atlantic, you wore those so if you fell overboard and your body washed up on a foreign shore, that those 2 gold earrings hopefully were still on your ears, and whoever found you would take one of those, use the money and have you properly buried, or if you had ID, to ship you back home, and then they got to keep the other one as their finder's fee. So you had 2 gold earrings.
A payment in advance.
Yeah, so it's pretty bold to wear that, like it's your...
Yeah, just in case I slip.
Just in case I fall overboard.
Dang.
But we ended up we had a great rough ferry ride over, and so we were delayed. So we were going to meet a train in Belgium and take that train into Amsterdam. Well, we missed the train by like an hour, and the next one left in the morning. So now we had nowhere to stay. We had our 50, 60-pound backpacks on our back.
Not a light packer.
I was a pretty good packer, but I wasn't where I am now about the backpacking backer.
Wearing your jeans 7 days in a row.
So we got there. We had nowhere to stay. Nothing was open. So we started tromping around Ostend, Belgium, and we found that there was one pub that had stayed open because everybody on this ferry had missed their trains. So everyone else who had missed their trains packed into this pub, and we ended up literally drinking all night. I mean, I know it sounds like a Jimmy Buffett song, but we were with some chums. I'm sure they had rum, and we ended up drinking all night. And we
For survival purposes.
Yeah, it was our lodging, and you just had to buy a new pint every hour, and the bar stayed open. And
How much was a pint?
We
was it less than $20?
Oh yeah, a pint was $3 or $4 back then. Maybe $3.
Yeah.
And now this is before the euro, so every country you went to, you had to change money. So luckily, this guy in Belgium was close enough to England where he took the English pound, because I think that's all we had on us. So we drank all night. lucky we weren't driving, walking, or riding a bike because we probably wouldn't have made it. But we got on the train at like 6 a.m. and hustled went into Amsterdam. So
one of my favorite cities.
there we are in Amsterdam, 1992. Now, if any listener out there has been to Amsterdam, we don't need to go into too many details what Amsterdam is known for. And I'll just say the red light district and the green grasshopper. We frequented one and not the other.
That's good.
So we stayed at a place called Bob's Youth Hostel.
More green, less red.
A lot more green, no red.
That's good.
So in our travel guide that we had used as our Bible, which was Rick Steves' Europe Through the Back Door. It's up there.
I see it.
And it had recently come out. I think he published it maybe in 1990. So it was a relatively new book. And Rick Steves, I followed him on PBS and all his shows. Great guy. Great travel shows. But this was the first book written about Europe through the back door. Not
the big touristy spots.
Not standing in line at the Louvre all day to see the Mona Lisa. But getting out and finding just crazy
what the
stuff.
locals do and where they go and really immerse yourself in the culture.
Yeah. So we took that book, Europe Through the Back Door, and we kind of changed it to Europe Through the Pub Door. So Europe through the back of the pub door. But we really tried on this trip to stay off the beaten path.
That's what the locals do. It's kind of where you are.
That's what all the locals do. So we stayed at Bob's Youth Hostel, and it was an interesting place. It was a 4-story building, and every floor was the same bunks. It was co-ed showers, open co-ed showers, which I was shocked when I went into the shower with a bathing suit on because I knew it was a co-ed shower.
Because you were a modest fella.
Well, I just wanted to have respect for everybody, traveling. And I'm taking a shower, soaping up, and here comes this buck-naked German couple walking in the shower. So
You were probably easily identified as the American.
Yeah, who's the American who has bathing suit on like I was at like 6th grade summer camp.
In the locker room.
Yeah, so it was a fun place. It was right smack dab in the middle of Amsterdam, and we saw Amsterdam. We saw
canal
cruises,
coffee shops,
just great museums there.
Did you go to
coffee
see Van
shops? No, because I think Van Gogh had a line, and that was one of our
I was mesmerized in the Van Gogh Museum.
Yeah.
Oh, it was incredible.
Yeah.
Especially, coffee shop, croissant, coffee.
Van Gogh.
It was a vibe.
Yeah.
It was one of the best days of my life, probably.
Amsterdam's a good city. Heineken Brewery.
Oh, Heineken. That was awesome.
Yeah, lots of Heinekens there. The beer in Europe in 1992 was cold, flowing, and cheap.
Is that where you started?
Yeah, we didn't drink a lot of wine.
Is that where you started your love affair of stroopwafels?
I don't remember having a stroopwafel there. I think you introduced me to the stroopwafel. I don't remember that little snack because I'm such a fan of them now that if I had a stroopwafel,
you would have remembered
a warm stroopwafel over my coffee.
They have the best pastries there.
I would have remembered that.
Yeah.
So we did the Amsterdam scene. It was great. And from there we took the train.
Well, I want to touch on a little story that you told us growing up, how you were lost. How you were lost. And you navigated your way back to the hostel.
Well, yeah, I was lost and a little confused, and where I thought I was lost, I was really standing right outside the hostel door in the pouring rain, and thought I was lost somewhere knee deep in the red light district of Amsterdam.
You thought you were at your wit's end. You were like emotional. You were scared, and then you looked up.
My buddies came out and said, "Hey, we've been looking for you," and I gave them a big hug, and
you're like,
they found
Eric
me.
and Joe.
Yeah, that was. Yeah, when I think the next morning we left Amsterdam.
You're like, get me out of here. It really does look the same. It's one big circular city, so it's easy to just.
And they're all canals.
All canals, all similar streets. It all kind of looks the same.
So they really can't change it because so Amsterdam 100 years ago looks pretty much the same as it does today.
Yeah, the canals are a lot cleaner. They're no longer used as the sewers that
Any of our listeners want to plan a trip to Amsterdam, my recommendation is it's about a 3 to 4 night stay, and that's plenty. And then get out.
Don't stay too long.
I mean it like a horror movie, a house. Get out.
Don't stay too long.
You have to leave. Because as an American, you're like, hey, there's a canal. Well, there's like 500 canals in Amsterdam.
And it's all one big canal.
Yeah, it just keeps going.
Yeah.
So we boogied out of there. We took the train. Now, this is 1992. The wall fell. The Soviet Union collapsed in 1990. And soon all of Eastern Europe was one domino after another. So this is only 2 years later. But I had to go to Berlin. I had to journey into the belly of the Third Reich. As a historian that studied World War II and grew up just watching every World War II movie, reading books about it, I had to go see that. So we took the train.
What did you have to see? The wall? Or where the wall was?
I just wanted to feel Berlin. I always wanted to, that was...
Yeah, you'd never been there.
Yeah, it's the belly of the beast right there. I had to feel...
Why was it the belly of the beast?
Well, because it was the headquarters of Nazi Germany.
Oh.
It was the headquarters of the Third Reich. It's where Hitler was, and some original buildings were still standing. And I just wanted to feel what Berlin was feeling and going through as it was falling.
Yeah.
So we didn't spend much time on the wall because everybody wanted to go see a wall. I'm like, it's a wall and it's going to get torn down. So we walked around a lot. But getting there, so we had an adventure getting there, because one thing about traveling, every day is like Sunday or every day is like Saturday. But you got to realize Monday in Europe is different than Friday, is different than Sunday. So we made a bad decision to travel there Saturday afternoon, so we were arriving in Berlin at like 10 p.m. Saturday night.
Busy, I imagine.
Yes. And Berlin was bustling. And so that's like getting into Times Square in New York City at 10 p.m. on a Saturday night. Now, mind you, we had no plans. We had no place to stay. We were just going to get off the train and start looking. So we did that. We saddled up our backpacks, and good little Americans with their backpacks on and hiking boots and jean shorts on.
Jorts.
Yeah, and we headed out. We walked the streets of Berlin for like 2 hours, and no one had an open room. And the only place we could find was like high-end hotels for $300 a night, and our budget was $60 a night. Mm-hmm. So I had a bright idea. Like, guys, we're going back to the train station. We're getting back on a train, and we're going to go fall asleep on the train, and we're going to take the train halfway back across Germany, turn around, which we did do that, and we got to at least take our backs off and kick our feet up and sleep a little bit. And we took a train, I think, back to Frankfurt, Germany, which was, again, halfway across Germany, got off that platform, and then took the next train, this was probably 3 or 4 in the morning, back to Berlin.
So you used the train as your place to sleep.
Yeah.
That's a good idea.
But it was a big waste of time because we took the train to Berlin twice.
Right, but really you were moving, whereas you would have been sleeping in Berlin. So
yeah.
you
we were safe, and so we survived.
And it was free.
And it was free. So we rolled back into Berlin.
That's a pretty good idea.
It was, let's say, by 8 or 9 a.m., and we put our packs back on, and we found a great place to stay.
Hostel?
It was it was a private. They called it a pension, so a small hotel, and it looked like something out of a World War II movie. It had like a 15-foot ceiling, and it was a converted office. It looked like a converted office space for German soldiers, and it was a hotel room.
It probably was a former.
Yeah, the door was like 12 feet tall. There was a shower smack dab in the middle. I guess that's where the pipe was to drain it, in the middle of the room.
What?
And it was like 3 little single beds around. So it was pretty cool. So we spent a couple nights there. We saw Berlin.
What'd you get into in Berlin?
Nothing super adventurous there. No problems. We just walked a lot. Saw the sights. Still, there were some ruins there.
Had you washed your jorts by this time?
Oh, we did some laundry there.
Oh, that's
good. That was always a good stop.
That's good.
Yeah, we did.
In the shower?
We did a little laundry.
Yeah.
We found a laundromat.
Well, with traveling with our family in the past, decade to different places, my father is known for packing very light.
Yes.
And wearing the same clothes over and over again. So this was something that you'd been doing on this trip as well.
Yeah. You hang clothes up at night, you let them air out. And one thing about traveling in Europe, a lot of people, especially back in 1992, didn't smell like they were going to the country club for brunch. They smelled like they had been working all day. So
you blended right in.
You blend right in.
Yeah,
it was when in Rome.
Yeah.
When in Rome. Smell like a Roman.
Smell like the French.
Smell like a Roman. So from Berlin, we decided we wanted to stay in that Eastern European vibe. So we took the train south to the city of Prague. Which Prague, again, had been recently, I'll say, liberated from the Soviet Union. And it was doing really well. It was enjoying capitalism. People were flocking to it. But it was still dirt cheap. And that's where the beer just was flowing like a river. So how you did accommodations in Prague, there weren't many hotels. There was only a few high-end hotels. So you rented a flat from someone who owned or rented their flat and subleased it. It was like an Airbnb in 1992. So you got off the train and you started negotiating with someone, and then you followed them basically to their
place,
their apartment, and you rented it for them. So we met a couple of other traveling guys on the trip. They were from Reno, and we were from Chico, so we were instantly bonded. And so there was 5 of us, and we had gone through the hustle line and said no. We had some advice from a fellow traveler from our fraternity that you got to make it outside. They really hard sell you on the inside.
It's like the Cancun airport.
Yeah, just make it outside and you'll be okay. So we made it outside. We fought our way out, and we met a guy there who said he had room for 5, and it was $50 a night. So
perfect.
We got for $10 a guy per night. We had our own flat with a balcony, a kitchen, 5 beds in it, a couple of bathrooms. It was great. I think if we didn't have such a planned trip of seeing so many other cities, we might have stayed in Prague for a couple of weeks because it was $10 a night. So then we ventured out and we found a couple of pubs, and beers were cheap. They were like $1 or $1.50. Maybe $1.50 on average.
Is this where the infamous?
Yes.
Story is?
Yes. So. Okay. We kept walking, and we were walking around the streets. It was an amazing city. There's a great castle and the Charles Bridge, which you cross the big river that flows through Prague. Just incredible. We kept meeting Americans and more Americans backpacking. But we stumbled on this little, I wouldn't even call it a pub. It was just, a tiny little bar. And it had a wash basin. And there weren't even taps. The beer just was like there was only one type of beer. They only served, literally, you couldn't get another cocktail or wine. It was just one beer on one tap. And there was about a 350-pound woman behind the bar with a tank top on, and she was taking the liters of beer, and she would wash them, and she would just dip them in the water and then set them on a rack. So that they weren't really even washed.
Rinsed.
So they were rinsed and then ready to fill back up. Now, these are liters of beer. So a good solid...
That's a stein,
it's
right?
33 ounces of beer, yeah.
That's 3 beers?
But they were a ceramic stein. They weren't even a glass stein. They were big ceramic steins.
Wait, a typical beer is 8 ounces, so that's more than 3.
Typical beer is 12 ounces.
Oh, 12 ounces.
Yeah, and a pint of beer is 16 ounces.
Okay.
So a liter of beer is a solid 2 pints.
Yeah.
And this beer was... The local Prague beer. It was strong beer.
Was it good?
And so we decided that we needed to try a pint of this. And we thought she had made a mistake after we ordered 3 beers because it was a little over $1 for 3 beers.
$1 for 3 beers?
Yeah, for 3 liters of beer. So we went outside, and on my little calculator, we figured out because it was a different currency too, so we weren't familiar with the currency. So after we're having outside And I'll get to why we were sitting outside in a minute, but we were calculating, and it came out these liters of beer were equivalent to 36 cents of American money.
Yeah.
36 cents for a liter of beer.
The happiest math you ever did.
It was. So I was
You guys
an instant
struck
fan.
gold.
Now, we were sitting outside the bar on the curb because once we got the beers, we found a little table, and then we noticed that we were in a local bar. They were locals, and I think they were locals of factory workers,
Blue collar.
very blue collar, and very unshaven and unwashed.
Rugged.
They were the real deal. So there was an odor in the bar that pretty much smelled as close to my high school shoulder pads as I'd ever smelled after I stopped playing football. I mean, it was, it was like smelling salts. It kept you just bright-eyed. So we decided to leave the table and move out to the curb. And then it was fresh air.
Needed some fresh air, yeah.
We ducked back in for a second round, and that's when we discovered, yes, and they were 36 cents for a liter of beer.
It's not too good to be true. Yes, it is true.
Yeah, and so we returned there day 2 with a few more Americans because we told them about our 36. So the average price of beer
You
was
couldn't
probably
keep your mouth shut. You had to spread the word.
$1.50 everywhere else. So this was cheap beer.
Yeah.
So if a pint of beer was $1.50, this was a pint of beer basically for 18 cents. It was like drinking for free.
Yeah.
It's
basically free.
It was free. It was free beer to college guys. So you
like
can
a
imagine.
moth to light.
Yeah, you can see how that went. So then the next afternoon we went. So it became like our happy hour place.
Pappy Hour.
It might have been the original Pappy Hour right there. But
yeah.
So every afternoon after we did our sightseeing, and we would return to the scene of the crime. And each day we returned, we had maybe 5 more people with us. Well, the last day we had about 25 Americans sitting out on the curb, littered out on the curb of this, drinking the 36-cent beer. So we were really good for business to that establishment. And I'll never forget, it was the same woman all 4 days too.
She probably never left.
And I think it was the same tank top.
Oh.
I think it was the same tank top. But I think we did get her to crack one smile. She never smiled, and I think the last day, I think it was when I said, "Look how much business we brought you," and I think she had a little smile.
Oh.
So that was also when we found out that you could get when I grew up, bagel dogs were very popular. Eating a bagel dog.
I've had one.
A hot dog, a sausage, any type of a
processed meat and bread.
Processed sausage wrapped or baked in some kind of bread. So they had these big Czechoslovakian sausages baked in this fresh bread, and we found a little side street that had a little hut that was making them, a little window, and they were 25 cents. So now we're talking 36
just
cents.
Skipping around at this point.
36 cents for a liter of beer and 25 cents for lunch and dinner.
And how big was the sausage?
It was a meal. It
Yeah.
was a meal. So we ate well and we drank well. Originally, I think we were going to spend 2 days in Prague, and we spent 4 and left on our 5th day.
Yeah, it's pretty hard to leave when you find.
Yeah, it was kind of like Disneyland. It was. The bridge lit up at night, and there was a castle up on the opposite side of the river from where we were staying. It looked like Disneyland.
That's where Disneyland was inspired by.
One of the places.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Walt Disney
in
took
Austria and south of France and Switzerland.
All through the Alps.
Yeah.
But it was a really neat place. So we decided we better move on with our trip. So we skedaddled out of Prague. And our next stop, we made it down to Vienna, Austria, which we weren't big art guys. If you can kind of gather the other 2 gentlemen I was with, we were into. We weren't looking for the Louvre.
Castles. And...
we weren't looking to go to the opera in Vienna. Mm-hmm. And Vienna is a real artsy.
Is that what they're known
place.
for, the opera?
Yeah. Well, just the arts.
Yeah.
Lots of museums. I mean, that's where Mozart spent a lot of his time.
Oh.
So some cool stuff, but we found a youth hostel outside of town a little bit. And our first night was spent laying awake listening to a absolute crazy German class. I mean, it was like 2 or 3 classes of young, probably like 7th or 8th grade German boys. And they were in our youth hostel. And they never went to bed. They just stayed up all night, chitter-chattering, running around. At one time, I think my cousin Eric said he's going to throw one out the window. And we talked him down from the ledge and said, no, you can't do that. But there was a gaggle of them, and they were noisy all night. So we did a pretty fast stay through.
Didn't stay in Vienna.
Yeah, we did. We were pretty tired of the sausage fest by then. And
literally and figuratively.
We needed to eat something else besides salami, sausage, hot dog, because I think we'd eaten a lot of that in Amsterdam too, and in Berlin. So we're going on a couple weeks now of
beer and sausage.
Yeah, not mixing it up. And 3 boys from California, we were used to good Mexican food, good Asian food. Mm. So in Vienna, we did find a Chinese restaurant, and we ordered up a round of plate. We each ordered a plate of food. We sat down, and they had Tsingtao beer, and I remember Tsingtao beer was that's the Chinese beer. And when I was in China, that's how I learned. I was in China when I was back in high school on a trip, and that's when I really learned how to drink beer, because you couldn't drink the water there. So in China in 1987, you drank orange soda or Tsingtao beer.
And you opted for the beer.
And I learned how to drink Tsingtao beer.
You got tired of the soda.
Yeah. So we walk into this Chinese restaurant. They got Tsingtao beer. We're starving. And we ordered up 3 plates of food. Combination. You got a couple choices of your rice and a main. But they came out and they were a full big plate of food. Well, we devoured them. And the little guy was waiting on us. Came by, how was it? It was great. We're going to order another one. And the guy could not believe, as we polished off 2 heaping 4-pound plates of Chinese food.
Noodles and rice.
And they just, I think towards the end, they just kind of sat in awe watching us eat.
Because you're 6'1". Eric is what, 6'3" or 4"?
6'3".
Joe's shorter than you, but he can eat.
We could eat. And we were hungry. And we were really, liked having some Asian food there. So of all my memories of Vienna, of all the grandeur of Vienna, I remember a plate of Chinese food. So we blazed out of Vienna, and we made our way to, we got back on the train, and we went to the city you went to, the city of the sound of music. Salzburg. Yes.
Oh, that was a great city.
We ventured into Salzburg.
I had some of the best Italian food of my life in that city.
Yeah. The Italian food revolution was not in Salzburg in 1992. That arrived later. So again, it was back to
a
bratwurst or a Wiener Schnitzel or they had very authentic Austrian food. But that was a great city. Again, a beautiful river running through it. We had a great place to stay. We met some other Americans. We hiked all over the castle there. The Salzburg Castle is beautiful.
That's also where we went to the oldest restaurant.
That's right.
The longest continuing restaurant. Remember, it's been open since like 800.
Yeah. We had dinner, and this was in a trip we went on in 2016. Yep. 2016. The whole family went to the Alps for a couple of weeks. But on that trip, we went to the oldest
restaurant,
continually running,
operating
restaurant in the world.
Yeah, it had been continually operating from family to family or business to business since I want to say 600 or 800. It was
around 800, and it had been run by monks, and they would run it they ran it for a few hundred years, and then a family would run it for 200 years, and then they sold it off to another family who ran it for 200 or 300 years.
Hopefully that happens to Summit.
Yeah, we're a couple of 1,000 years short, but and we didn't see that. You know why we didn't see that in 1992? Because we were looking for 50-cent bratwurst on the streets.
Yeah, it wasn't a cheap restaurant by the time we got to it.
Yeah, that was a neat restaurant.
Yeah, it was cool.
And then in Salzburg, we found a great beer garden, which we did walk through when we went on that trip. But it was a really good beer garden. We had not been to Munich yet, so we didn't it was our first real German beer garden outdoor, and they were serving liters of beer.
Yeah, a lot of German influence in Switzerland.
They weren't 36 cents in Salzburg then. They were probably $5. But a liter's a liter, and
you broke even.
We had a lot of fun there. We left Salzburg, and now we were into the Alps. So we stayed in the Alps for a while. I think our next stop was Munich. So we did go to Munich.
But you went through Switzerland, so you saw the
No,
Alps.
no, we went from Salzburg to Munich because that's a straight shot west.
That's where you go by Hitler's Eagle's Nest, right?
Yeah, yeah. And we did not stop. That wasn't one of our stops we had made, but we did do that in 2016.
Yeah.
That
was neat.
The Eagle's Nest.
That was crazy.
Yeah.
To sit there where he was sitting.
That was a Berchtesgaden.
Berchtesgaden.
Yeah. So we made it to Munich, and we had a really fun time. I remember going to the Lowenbrau beer garden, and I was a little surprised because I thought that the servers of the steins of beer all looked like the St. Pauli girl, and so we were waiting for the St. Pauli girl to come around, but I think they're only employed at Oktoberfest. Because all we had serving us beer were very unfriendly Turkish men. And all they wanted was their Deutschmark in their hand, and here's your beer. So we went in search of the St. Pauli girl, and we never found her.
Oh.
Yeah, just a lot more unfriendly Turkish men serving beer.
Why the Turkish men in Germany?
Well, Germany has had a lot of immigration from Turkey. That was a lot of their workforce. Germany needing more workers, and workers really opened their the not on their southern border, but there was a lot of immigration from Turkey, I think through the 70s and 80s into Germany. Yeah, we did do one interesting thing there. We went to the Dachau concentration camp.
Oof.
So that was extremely eye-opening. I had watched many films about World War II and the Holocaust, but to see it firsthand, and it's not quite the Auschwitz because it's outside of Munich, Germany. It was a little cleaned up. I never want to give an analogy of an amusement park, but it was clean, and it told the story, but it didn't
have that kind of eerie feel to it, as much as
the prison camps. The camps that are open in Poland haven't had German influence, so they've been able to keep them
just as they were,
just original. Yes.
Oh.
So
so you're saying the Germans kind of cleaned up theirs to kind of make it a little.
Yes. Yeah. They did, and the message was still there. You saw the horror. But it was a little cleaned up version. So,
yeah.
But if any listeners are out there and there are around southern Germany or Munich, it's definitely worth a visit because it will humble anyone at any time.
Yeah, it's in terms of history, one of the most historic events to ever happen in the 20th century, and important to go and see that firsthand.
I always like I'm one, and through this show you'll feel you never feel sorry for yourself, and if someone's ever feeling sorry for themselves, take a trip like that.
Yeah. And
you will put things into perspective.
Totally.
So we left Munich, and then we really kind of crawled our way through the Alps. We went to Switzerland. We went to Lucerne, Switzerland.
We went there.
That's where I bought a Swiss Army knife from the Swiss Army knife factory, the Vitronics Vitronics.
You saw Swiss the lion in the carved out.
And the lion carved out.
Remember that cliff of
stone the lion, yes.
Where the weeping lion is?
Yes, and that's right where the little factory store was.
Yeah.
And I still have that Swiss Army knife today. That's gone with me all my travels.
I bought one in Lucerne too, and then I got it promptly confiscated at TSA because I forgot to put it in my checked bag. So
yours didn't last long.
Didn't last as long as yours did.
Yeah, I've been careful. Mine was confiscated one time but I was able to check it in with the local police department, who I happen to have a connection with, and I went and retrieved it after our trip.
When you left San Jose?
Yes.
Yeah,
So
that's smart.
I had it taken away, but thank God my friends at the police department got me out of that one, and I got the knife.
Shout out San Jose PD.
Because that's an heirloom. I mean, it's been with me since 1992.
Yeah, I'll take good care of it. I'll try not to
Well,
lose
I'm
it.
not sure I'm going to pass it on to you. You might go board a flight with it because of the can opener and the bottle opener.
Give it to Kaylee.
Yeah, I might have to
Give it to Kaylee.
pass that down to your children.
Yeah.
So we had some great times through the Alps. Lucerne, we landed there, and again, we were in search of our $60 budget a night. And Lucerne hotels were, that's a little bit of a touristy place, so hotels were...
Everything's more expensive in Switzerland.
Yeah. And so hotels were like $120, right? 120. We went to the next one. It was 130. We went to the next one. It was 140. So we just kept walking outside of town. And we were all frustrated. We were tired. And we walked. And all of a sudden we get to this camp. We get to a campground. And it's the Lido campground. And my cousin Eric, who was really the stickler for the $20 a night
He wasn't budging.
accommodations, yes. Joe and I were ready to give in to a nice place and just relax in the city, but Eric said, nope, we're going to keep walking. And lo and behold, I thought we were going to walk halfway to France, but lo and behold, a few miles outside of town, or a couple miles outside of town, was the Lido campground. And there we had just like a vacation inside of a vacation. We rented, they had little bungalows, so we rented a 3-bed bunkhouse, and I believe it was $27 a night.
And Eric said,
Even cheaper
told ya.
than Prague. It was like $9 per guy for our own little private little hut. It didn't have a bathroom in it, but it was a great place to stay.
Good enough.
But the best story of the Lido campground, you know this story's coming, huh?
Yeah.
The chicken story. So again, guys from California that were used to eating a wide variety of food, we were really tired of the salami, the sausage, the meat. I mean, you'd go into a deli there. They had beautiful delis. And you couldn't find a chicken or turkey. But they had 78 varieties of salami. And I thought to myself, I'm like, all you need is one chicken. You got plenty of eggs, so I know you got the chickens. No turkey sandwich there. So we get to the Lido campground. We get all settled in. And they had a little snack bar open. So we saunter down to the snack bar. 2 little Swiss ladies in the snack bar. Cute older ladies. And we noticed they had a cooler full of liters of beer. So, and then, to our amazement, they have rotisserie chickens. They had a big oven just rotisserieing these little fat chickens.
Like salivating.
And it was like a cartoon where the coyote dreams of a chicken.
Yeah.
It was that was. So the first, I think Eric went first, and he said, I'd like a liter of beer, a chicken, and they had big baguettes of fresh Swiss bread and a baguette of bread. So he and it was cheap. I mean, that whole thing was probably $10 for a chicken, a liter of beer, and a loaf
full
of bread.
chicken.
Full
Like
chicken.
A Costco rotisserie chicken.
Costco chicken.
Without the plastic.
So she serves that up. Well, she thinks it's for the 3 of us, that we're going to go picnic and share that. So now Joe goes next, and Joe gets up there, smiles, and says, I'd like a chicken, a liter of beer, and a loaf of bread. And immediately the 2 women start, like their little neighbors talking gossip, start whispering in the Swiss speak mostly German, so in German, speaking to themselves like in amazement. They couldn't believe we were ordering already a second chicken, a second liter of beer, and a second loaf of bread. So they give it to Joe. Joe saunters off onto the picnic bench and joins Eric, who's already tearing into his chicken, halfway done with his beer. So I'm next, and they're looking at me like, what are you going to order? I'd like a liter of beer, a chicken, and a loaf of bread. And they just were giggling. They were
Hysterics.
all giggles from there. They could not believe. So I get my load, I get my bag of food, and I join them at the bench. And we, the 3 of us, I don't believe we probably said 5 words in the next 15 minutes. We went medieval on the chicken, pounded the beer, and just the loaf of bread was evaporated, a whole loaf of bread. So, and in fact, that's when we gave Joe a nickname, because he had eaten his chicken so thoroughly that there was literally just a pile of bones, and we called him the archaeologist because there wasn't a speck of chicken on that carcass left. And so from then on out, he was the archaeologist. And these women just watched us the whole time, still giggling back and forth in amazement of these 3 large American boys downing chicken's bread. And I think we had liter 2 and maybe liter 3 of beer because the liters were, a couple bucks. And that was the Lido Campground, Lucerne, Switzerland.
One of the best meals of your life, would you say?
What a great place. And just to end up, it was kind of the karma trip. And we had gone out after that big meal, and we went out to the lake. This campground was just maybe a block off the lake, which was this huge Lake Lucerne.
Most beautiful lake.
Just gorgeous. It looked
picturesque.
It looked as close as you can to Tahoe, but just even cleaner, and buildings all around it.
Sky-high mountains
around it.
Snow-capped peaks.
So we walk out to this pier on there, grabbed a couple of liters from the snack shack there. It was the original. That was the OG snack shack. So we grab a couple of liters, and we walk out to the pier, and I said, this day's been perfect. The only thing that would make this day better are fireworks. And I kid you not, 5 seconds after that, a fireworks show started on the opposite side of the lake. And you couldn't hear real well. We were a little far, but we watched this beautiful firework display in the Alps. So it was Did
you take a dip?
It was a good day. We took a dip in the water. Yeah, we went. We did a little
cold
swimming.
plunge?
It was cold. You swam in that lake.
Yeah, it was cold.
Yeah, when we were there.
But it was so refreshing.
2016, we rented a little speedboat.
Yeah, like a little kind of pontoon type of thing, and that was awesome.
You and Kaylee decided you wanted to swim to that little island, so you jumped in the water. And
we boarded the island.
And you attacked the island.
We tried to go up on that platform too, and they were like,
Yeah, they wouldn't let you in. You had to pay you didn't have any euros on you.
Yeah, we had to take a long swim back to the boat. No, it's such a beautiful lake. If you're in Switzerland, Lake Lucerne is a must.
Yeah. So we wanted to stay in the Alps for a little while, so we had we had a couple destinations that guys had told us about. So we probably weren't the smartest travelers of going from A, B, C, D, E, F, but we kind of booked these cities. So we left Lucerne and we went into Annecy. We were on our way to Chamonix, France. So we were leaving the Swiss Alps and we were entering the French Alps, which is, if anybody's been to the Alps, they all are beautiful. Whether you're in the Italian Alps, the French Alps, the Swiss Alps, the Austrian Alps, it's gorgeous, and it all.
The Liechtenstein Alps.
We drove through there. So we were on our way to Chamonix, France, which is a big ski location, but it was a destination for us because we wanted to take the tram all the way to Mount Blanc.
And we couldn't do that when we were there because the weather was so bad.
They had closed it, huh?
Yeah.
So in between Lucerne and Chamonix, we went through a place called Annecy. And Annecy was
Gorgeous.
One of the places Walt Disney had modeled Disneyland out of it. And they call it the Venice of the Alps because the little town of Annecy has these canals that run through the sound.
Was that where we did the canyoning?
Yes.
And we stayed in that hotel where Nazi Germans came and took people away from?
So, So side note on I feel like we need to talk about our 2016 Alps trip.
Well, we're kind of going back and forth, kind of doing both of them.
Back and forth. Cool. But yeah, and that trip we stayed at a hotel that had been around for a few hundred years. It was an old hotel, a little outside of town. But in 1944, the French really did a good job of harboring Jewish citizens during the war and hiding them from the Nazis. And this hotel had about 25 men, women, and children, mostly women and children, that they were hiding. And someone in town got wind of it, and the SS troops rolled up there and took these 25 people away from this hotel.
Yeah, but didn't they save one?
The owner of the hotel said 2 of the children were hers, because she already had a couple children, and they looked enough alike, and she dressed them up in the same of her kids' clothes and saved, I believe, 2 of them.
2 Jewish children.
Yeah.
And raised them as her own.
And it was a plaque on the hotel. The hotel didn't talk about it, but there was a plaque outside the hotel, and I could read just enough German to tell.
And then we looked it up and we read the whole story, and we were like, wow.
Yeah, and I read the names, and I could tell the names were of Jewish descent, and I put 2 and 2 together and said,
yeah, they weren't like advertising that this was something we kind of dug, and
not
we're
at all.
Wow, that's
and then
crazy.
I asked one of the I think the manager at the hotel, and she had kind of told most of the stories. So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's Annecy.
That's Annecy. So Annecy, France. So we had a great time there. That's where we found the bakery that had the best chocolate croissant ever in the world.
When we went?
Yeah, that was the bakery that I...
God, we had hundreds of croissants on that trip.
Yeah, the Alps know how to bake.
They're all good.
I wish someone in the United States could bake the same type of croissant that they bake in
There's a good croissant
France.
place up in San Francisco that's supposed to be really, really good.
I'll have to try that next time we're up there. We finally made our way to Chamonix, France. There's one road in and one road out. It's literally a canyon surrounded by the tallest mountains you've ever seen.
Yeah.
It's just, you're
like in a bowl.
Yeah, you wouldn't believe how tall the mountains are above. I think you're at like 6,000 feet altitude in the
It's higher
mountains.
than Denver.
Yeah, or about that. And then the mountains are 14,000 feet high.
Yeah.
So we left Chamonix, and we left the little town, and we got on it's like a gondola, like you would think about it, like a Squaw Valley gondola.
Yeah.
And we took it up, and we left in shorts and t-shirts because it was about 80 degrees in Chamonix.
You mean jorts and t-shirts?
Yeah, some jean shorts and some tank tops. Oh, we probably had tank tops on.
And some New Balance shoes with white calf socks.
Yeah, or that might have been pre-New Balance days. That might have been still Nike shoes in those days. New Balance was probably a little ahead of New Balance.
Yeah.
But we definitely had we probably had our hiking boots on. Yeah.
You only brought one pair of shoes?
Yeah, we had our Danner hiking boots on.
Oh.
So we journey up there, and thank God I had stuffed one of my little packable down jackets in a little pack I had, because we got up to the top after about an hour ride up, and it was snowing. It was actually snowing. And I don't know if it was snowing from the sky. I believe it was just so windy it was whipping the snow up. I mean, it was falling from the sky, but I think it was due to the wind on this crazy Mount Blanc. I believe the highest point in all, we'll fact check that, but...
slightly underdressed.
Yeah, I believe it's the highest point in all of continental Europe. So we had a little snowball fight up there.
Did some snow angels.
Yeah, we did not do a snow angel. We made Joe do a snow angel. And had a snowball fight. And that's where, when you get to the top of Mount Blanc, if you just keep taking that gondola over, you're in Italy. It's the border of France and Italy. So it quickly becomes the Italian Alps.
Okay.
But what we had left back in Chamonix was our passports. So we had to turn around.
Oh.
Yeah, we couldn't go into Italy.
Were you bummed?
I was a little disappointed in my preparedness that I didn't bring my passport. But
Would you rather have brought your jacket or your passport?
The jacket. It was freezing.
Yeah.
It went from like 80 degrees to probably 40 degrees in that ride up.
Yeah. Did you get any skiing done?
And we didn't ski down. We joked about it, that we could just, turn Eric into one big toboggan, and me and Joe could ride him down the hill. But so we did that. That was a real highlight of the trip, being up to the top of Europe. And then from Chamonix, we were now in France. So we decided that we needed to get some beach weather in. So we decided to head down to Nice along the Riviera. So we headed for the French Riviera. We went down to Nice, and Nice was a little bit of a you know what show. I mean, it's a busy.
It's a holiday destination.
It's a holiday destination and a little bit seedy. Here we were in the Alps where everybody was just
nice,
friendly, nice, smiley, honest, and then we went to.
They're not as welcoming of Americans.
And then welcome to Nice.
Yeah.
But we did some great exploring along that region. We saw Monte Carlo and the castle at Monte Carlo and all the huge ships. I couldn't believe the 150 foot yachts in the bay there.
Oh yeah, that's.
We tromped the beach around, and from there, so we had a pretty uneventful. We almost got mugged in Nice, but we were smart, and just some thugs were following us, and I think they thought they might have got a good look at us and decided that we weren't going to be easy victims.
Yeah, you put up a fight at least.
We got our way out of there.
What did they approach you and?
Yeah, one of them approached us, and then another group had followed us, but it was.
Weaseled out of it.
It's a little dicey, but we made our way. And then from Nice, we took the train back up to Paris. Spent a few days in Paris, did all the touristy things, Eiffel Tower, Arc de Triomphe, lots of Parisian pubs and good French beer. That's where I got a love for 1664 Kronenberg beer. Yeah, French beer. And we tailed up the trip, and
You flew back from France?
We boarded a nonstop from Charles de Gaulle to SFO. Now, last story of the trip, we knew it was going to be free beer. So we were luckily sitting in the back of the plane, and we got on and started drinking beers.
Doing what you do.
Talking to the stewardesses. They took a liking to my cousin Eric, like a lot of ladies did. And Joe and I took the cart. They let us take the service cart, and we posted up at the back of the airplane, and we became the bartenders of the flight. And
what?
People were walking back to the back of the flight. Yeah, the commercial airliners operated a lot differently in those days. This is before 9/11, and the stewardesses were loving it because they were just kicking back in their seats, and we were serving cocktails. And
they were chillaxing, flirting with Eric, and you and Joe just took over.
We were bartenders for the 10-hour flight.
Oh my God!
So we got into San Francisco, and I'm really thankful that we were able to get off that plane. All right, and that trip is a wrap. That was 40 days.
Another cool thing about that trip is that you had just met Mom a few months before, and she had written you some notes.
No, different trip.
Oh, different trip.
Yeah.
What trip did she do that for?
I had called, I had just met Kim and was madly in love with her, so I made a point to call her once a week on that trip, and I'd call every Sunday afternoon my time. It would be Sunday morning for her time. So every Sunday morning we talked.
Aww.
And I missed her on that trip, and that was the last trip without her to Europe of my life, and we'll never go to Europe apart again. So.
Oh, that's cute. What trip am I thinking of that she wrote you some notes for you to open every day or week or something?
That's cute. We'll talk about that one later.
Cute.
We'll just preface it with that was again with Joe and another friend Steve, and we went to with about 10 other fraternity brothers, rented a houseboat for spring break on Lake Havasu.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
we'll talk Havasu later.
Havasu is where some shenanigans happen. I haven't been, but I've heard.
But that'll wrap it up this time.
That's a great story. 1992.
1992. 40 days, 40 nights, with a backpack and not one reservation.
And a pair of jorts.
No reservation besides flying there and flying home, and we pulled it off. So.
Good memes.
Great memories.
Yeah.
All right.
That wraps up episode 3. If you like this episode, give us 5 stars. We'd really appreciate that. Subscribe to our channel. Share it with your friends and family. But thanks for hanging out with us.
Yep.
Another episode.
My shout out is to my wardrobe extraordinaire, my wife Kim, who has been so kind to always have hanging in my closet. I don't know if anybody can tell from my personality so far. I'm not a big shopper. I don't enjoy shopping. I was on the other end of retail clothing for 31 years, so I'm not a big, shopping around the mall.
You know what
shopping.
you're looking at when you're dealing with clothing.
But,
so
yes, but she is always another fine Tommy Bahama.
Yep, Tommy Bahama. If you're listening, we would be absolutely open to a partnership.
Tommy Bahama.
Oh yeah.
Okay, but I don't quite have the chiseled jawline.
You don't have to. I think you're the poster boy for Tommy Bahama.
The poster boy for Tommy Bahama.
Chill, laid back, retired.
Tommy Bahama and Pappy Hour.
We would be great partners. So.
Before we leave, one quick shout out to another one of my favorite charities, Paralyzed Veterans of America, PVA. Check them out, pva.org. And another great charity. Their return dollar percentage is extremely high, well into the 90 percentile. And they do great work with paralyzed veterans.
Shout out to them. Shout out to Tommy Bahama. Shout out to everyone who tuned in and listened.
And we'll see you next
Love
time.
you guys. We'll see you for another episode next week.
Thanks for joining into Pappy Hour.